Perseus said seriously. Bullshit about being a lady. Don't tell me you don't know what kind of woman I really am. You've been pretending for a while now. It just so happens that I've recently discovered that you're also worthy of seeing my true self. Helene smiled. However, secret between the two of us. I don't like guys who leak girls' privacy, you know? Perseus stood there, completely baffled as to what was wrong with her. But does this mean she wants to confront everyone? Fine, let her make it public if she wants. He'll have to keep it covered up anyway. Don't stand there, it's too oppressive. It's uncomfortable. Sit down. Chatting is about sitting down. Helen patted the empty space next to her. Perseus sat down as she wished, but not in the spot she had specified. He sat at least 10 feet away from her. One oblivious guy. Do you think any girl would like you acting like this? Helen Yin's smile was tinged with sarcasm. I'm just afraid that if someone sees this, it will damage your reputation. Really? How thoughtful. No one else can see this unless they can fly. There's always a chance of something going wrong, so it's never wrong to be cautious. Whatever. I was actually hoping you'd put your hand inside my clothes, but since you seem so disgusted with me, I guess you don't want to touch me anymore, Helen said lazily. Perseus remained seated, seemingly oblivious. Hey, you didn't even react at all. I'm losing face, Helen said, glaring at him with displeasure. I'm sorry. I'm a gentleman and cannot respond to such indecent language. Oh, so you're putting on airs in front of me? Are you like this with my cousin too? Helen asked with a grin. If she said that, you definitely wouldn't be able to resist, right? After all, she is such a great figure, not to mention gentlemen. Even the Pope would drool. How could that be? Lovia isn't a little boy. I treat all women the same, Perseus said calmly. I can't help but feel your seriousness. If you won't come over, I will, okay? In the blink of an eye, she was sitting down next to Perseus with her arm around his and her head on his shoulder. The area around my arm felt very soft to the touch. Is this considered seduction? Or is it just a joke? And if he takes it seriously, he'll be ruined immediately? He really couldn't handle any other girl like this, but this one? He has to handle it, even if he can't. Otherwise, even if nothing happens at the time, there will be endless troubles later. Huh, it's really just a fleeting touch. It's not like she's actually lying naked on his bed for him to take advantage of. Who would want to touch her 36E breasts with unlimited potential? Actually, just sitting like this is quite nice. You can sit on the rooftop where no one goes, leaning against the wall and sunbathing, with an incredibly beautiful girl as your companion. And the view is beautiful as you look up. Looking in her direction is also a beautiful sight. Why are you pulling up your collar? Are you hot, miss? Perseus looked away with great difficulty, determined not to look in her direction. Why are you being so harsh on yourself? I can't bear to be so cruel to you, even though you really want to touch me. Don't think I don't know, she whispered in his ear. Just between you and me, my personal experience was pretty good, you know? I just don't know if you like it. Please have some self-respect. Perseus's nose was burning, but he remained outwardly righteous. Heh, I gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it, so don't blame me. That's enough for today. She sat back down in her original seat. I felt relieved, yet also a little lost. Dealing with a bad woman is painful, whether you win or lose. That's why bad women are so hateful. This is a lesson she deserves. She'll be taught a lesson she won't forget. Let's see if she dares to have a fever again. After basking in the sun for a while, Perseus became somewhat impatient for the first time. He was probably still shaken by the little beauty's radical words and actions, which made him even angrier. Miss Helen, what brings you here? If you don't tell me soon, get out of class will be over, Perseus said. Didn't you already say this was a date invitation? I didn't deny it. It's a pity you don't seem to like me very much. I even put aside my girlish reserve, and you were unmoved. What's the point of saying anything? The date is over, Helen said angrily. Oh, Perseus stood up, dusted himself off, and bowed. Please excuse me. If you dare leave, I'll tear your clothes to shreds and run around telling everyone you molested me, Helen said viciously. Perseus's eye twitched. She might actually be capable of doing something like that. Hee, don't forget I'm a duke. You're just a country bumpkin. Guess who will believe? You or me? Helen's smile was deliberately sinister, but quite cute. Not only will you be expelled from school, but you'll also be jailed for a long time, you know? I believe you're not the kind of person who would frame or slander others. That's me, Helen said without a hint of shame. Aren't all nobles like this? Corrupt and lawless, disregarding human life, forcibly buying and selling dozens of poor girls and locking them in basements to play with and torture them. It's already very lenient to just accuse you of indecent assault. What she said is quite right in a sense. Duke Romanthal was one of the 5 dukes of the empire, and now one of the 4. Except for the unforgivable crime of treason, even open murder and arson would only result in a fine. You must understand that this was a wicked feudal society where slavery still existed. Ordinary people could only have so-called human rights if the superiors who rode on their heads were willing to give them handouts. I'm impressed, I have to admit it. No matter how eloquent and persuasive Perseus was, he only had room to perform because those important figures cared about their reputation. If the other party turns hostile, killing him wouldn't be a difficult task. Like Helen's voice. She appears so gentle and lovely that it's easy to forget she's one of the most powerful people in the empire, holding the power of life and death over countless individuals. Perseus was suddenly struck by the realization that although he thought he had been very cautious, he had been blinded by his previous success and had forgotten that from the day of the auction, he had been risking his life for his business. Everyone thought he was going to die at any moment, and in fact, he really was going to die at any moment. He subconsciously took a chance, and because he was lucky enough not to actually die, he unconsciously overlooked this point. It seems I must leave the capital city, this arena of power struggles, as soon as possible and go somewhere else to develop my strength discreetly. Before he had the confidence to overturn the table, he was just an ant. The emperor could crush him, and the devilish Helen Een before him could similarly bring him to his doom with ease. After a moment of brainstorming, Perseus had already made up his mind. Under Helen's slightly surprised gaze, Perseus knelt on one knee in front of her and tightly grasped her hand. I don't believe you would do such a thing, because no matter how you see yourself or me, in my eyes you are a radiant and beautiful woman with all kinds of wonderful qualities, even though you yourself may not realize it. His words were so earnest and firm, and his eyes so deep and affectionate, that Helen couldn't help but fall into self-doubt. Am I really as good as you say? Clearly you have no idea how wonderful you truly are. Perseus shook his head. You're really good at bragging, aren't you? I was almost starting to believe you. Helen's expression changed, and she yawned wearily, indicating that she didn't want to watch the other person's clumsy performance. But Perseus still frowned and sighed deeply. Miss Helen, please believe me, all of this is from the bottom of my heart. If I have uttered even half a lie, may my parents die suddenly, my eldest brother fall from a building, and my second brother be sold into a brothel to serve customers until he dies. What a terrible vow. Your family has suffered so much. What about you? Helen Een said, pursing her lips. Let me never be able to redeem my second brother from that hell on earth. Perseus said with a sorrowful expression. Ha ha ha. Helen laughed loudly. You got all the benefits, didn't you? Okay, being able to say such funny things so seriously and still hold back your laughter is a special skill. As a reward for your wonderful performance, I'll believe you for now. I'm very wonderful, so what? Therefore, I beg you not to portray yourself as such an evil nobleman. You are the embodiment of all beauty and goodness, and you would never do such a despicable thing as slandering others. Even if you're just trying to scare me, I cannot bear to hear such terrible words coming from your mouth. You actually dare to say that? Fine, just smile right now, and I won't say anything, right? It's easy, isn't it? Forget about you. I can't help but laugh just hearing it, ha ha ha. Miss Helen, I am discussing this matter with you very seriously, and I will absolutely not laugh. Perseus stubbornly refused to laugh. Now it was Helen's turn to be convinced. What a respectable and awe-inspiring man. If you can hold back your laughter, you'll succeed in whatever you do in the future. So what? It's none of your business. Helen looked at him disdainfully. You've made me sound like a fallen angel, but even if that's true, what right do you have to tell me what to do? I'm saying these words from the standpoint of a loyal admirer of yours. Perseus shouted excitedly. Haha. Helen's eyes narrowed into a dangerous arc. You mean you like me? To be honest, I fell deeply in love with you the first time I saw you. If that's the case, why can't I see it at all? When I greet other boys, they get all excited, but you don't even give me a proper reaction. You don't understand the forbearance and restraint that an admirer, whose desires are destined to be unfulfilled, must possess. Perseus said sadly. Why do you think you can get what you want? Because of my humble status. That's a good reason, but it won't work for me. Helen broke free from his hands, grabbed his chin with one hand, and smiled arrogantly. I don't care who I date, whether they have status or money, because I have both status and money. My only requirement for someone is that I like them. Perseus watched her silently. Since you like me so much, and I happen to like you too, why don't we just get together? Do you have any objections? She said, her smile beautiful, yet carrying a seductive and sharp edge that didn't suit her age. Isn't this a little too fast? Perseus was stunned. Soon, that shouldn't be the case. If you really like me as much as you say, you should be overjoyed when I take the initiative to ask you to be with me, right? Of course I'm very happy, but it all feels a little unreal, like a dream. As soon as he finished speaking, Helen's soft, sweet lips pressed against his. This is not a dream, darling. She giggled and wrapped her arms around Perseus's neck, looking up at him from below. Congratulations, your dream has come true. Now you can finally smile, right? Perseus's lips twitched rapidly a few times, as if he were struggling with something difficult and intense. After a long while, he finally managed to raise a smile that could barely be called a smile. Ha ha ha! Helen laughed hysterically, tears streaming down her face. But suddenly she stopped laughing, clearly in great pain, yet she persisted, with only her large, watery eyes constantly flashing with an unpredictable light. It's both captivating and subtly frightening. Perseus was filled with doubt and suspicion, secretly wondering what she was up to. Before he could speak, Helen hugged him tightly and held his head in her arms. What should I do? Honey, I think I might actually like you. Perseus didn't believe her nonsense, and silently felt the softness of her chest with his face. This is my first relationship. You have to cherish my feelings if... She said softly, if I ever find out that you dislike me even a little bit, you're dead. Perseus felt a sharp pain in his heart, and a chill run down his spine. Do you understand? Understood. He. You look like you're nursing. So cute. It's not like he wanted to eat it himself. But then again, Chapter 23, skipping class and going home. So, from now on, we're in a romantic relationship. Please take good care of us. When class ended and they returned to the classroom right on time, Helen held Perseus's hand and stood on the podium, embracing him affectionately, and announced to everyone with an angelic smile. The entire venue fell into a deathly silence, as expected, with only the sound of countless hearts breaking. The vast majority of boys, a small number of girls, and Luna, who was anxiously waiting for Perseus to return, only to suddenly learn that he had a new love interest. Perseus greeted countless envious, jealous, and hateful glances with a smile, as well as the expressionless stares of the trio in the corner. Originally, he thought it was absolutely impossible to make this public. The taller the tree, the more the wind will blow against it. He had already been in the limelight enough recently, and if he didn't keep a low profile, he would be close to his doom. Unfortunately, Miss Helen would never allow him to pretend nothing was wrong. As for the consequences of being high profile, sorry, she doesn't care at all. She wouldn't care even if Perseus were stabbed to death by some jealous boys. She's indeed a genuine bad woman who doesn't take love seriously at all. Even if she really likes a boy, she will only play with him and his feelings with great interest. It doesn't matter if it's public, if we sleep together, or even if she has his children. I like it, but I'll never fall in love with it. She would never abandon herself for the sake of so-called love, nor would she allow anyone to ride roughshod over her in the name of love. So even if she were to actually sleep with Perseus, she would have to be on top. Actually, she hadn't completely fallen for Perseus yet. She only had a slight interest, something like being interested. Being able to hold his hand and hug him occasionally was already a privilege for him. Going a step further? Not available at the moment. Not to mention how much of this tiny bit of affection was actually out of spite towards that foreign woman. She glanced lightly at Miri Phallus' side. The foreign princess seemed only slightly surprised, more interested in the demi-human girl's heartbroken reaction. What's going on? So you can't get angry at her? Helen was a little disappointed. She regretted not dating Perseus. But since things have come to this point, let's make the most of this situation and find some excuse to dump this wicked man who is just as cunning as she is. The two looked at each other, their smiles filled with sweet happiness. Perseus put his arm around Helen's waist and walked off the stage toward her seat. Although she was nominally loved and respected by all the boys in the school, she felt no remorse towards them and didn't even bother to brag about it to anyone. Because he wasn't happy about it. He only had a headache. My head is throbbing terribly. His bold declaration of love to Helen was originally intended to confuse the woman, or at least make her less at ease when facing him. This is inevitable. When a girl who likes you finds out that you like her, she'll be overjoyed. When a girl who doesn't like you finds out you like her, she'll feel incredibly uncomfortable. Regardless of the possibility, she can no longer treat you the same way as before.